Transparency Task Force. We are spending more and more and more of our time coming to one simple, straightforward conclusion. Enough is enough.
Purposeful reforms that are absolutely necessary. The kind of reforms that will make the future brighter for today's victims and sadly for tomorrow's victims too. Please put your hands together for Mr. Paul Weir. Thank you.
Wake up, come on.
Okay, I'm from EMAG, which is the Equitable Life campaign group. I'm one of 1 million people robbed of part of our pensions by the Treasury and other regulators because they failed to control Equitable Life over a decade. We lost a significant part of our retirement savings. I lost £64,000 of my pension fund, my own fund, and I got £14,000 in compensation in 2013 from the Treasury. I'm still waiting for the missing £50,000 that was taken from me, and many others are here. We received 22% of our acknowledged losses. The government admitted what we'd lost, but they didn't want to pay the bill. In 2008, the Parliamentary Ombudsman called on the government to fund a compensation scheme to put those people who have suffered a relative loss back into the position that they would have been in had maladministration not occurred. The government accepted that victims' losses amounted to £4.1 billion, but only announced £1.5 billion in compensation, citing the state of the public finances. We're still owed £2.6 billion, and that's without any consideration of the interest we've lost over the last 15 years. Had the Treasury and other financial regulators done their job properly, we wouldn't have lost our pension savings. I know this story will be only too familiar to many of the people on this march today. We say when the state or its agents do something wrong and acknowledge culpability, they should provide full and proper redress, not give us token handouts. The government and its agencies should not hold themselves to a lower standard than those it requires and expects of others. To add insult to injury, the Treasury even plans to pocket 180 million underspend of our compensation fund, despite itself being a guilty party to the maladministration. In my many meetings with Treasury ministers and officials in this building, I've discovered that they are much better at collecting money than dispensing it. I fully support this march, this collective endeavour, because we have all experienced something similar. We've all experienced our version of the catastrophic systemic failure that has and is continuing to cause carnage as far as people's well-being and financial security is concerned. This just isn't good enough. The UK is better than this. We should demand better from all the authorities that have the power, the remit and the responsibility to protect consumers from financial crime, financial misconduct and outright fraud, and the power, remit and the responsibility to help sort out the messes when things go horribly wrong. It's a general election this year. Let's do all we can together to motivate our politicians to drive the kind of reforms that are so desperately needed. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Paul. Ladies and gentlemen, we're now going to be on our way to HMRC. The fear of law itself is sufficiently motivated to work for this campaign and related campaigns on a pro bono basis. This is about as close to a hero as you get, ladies and gentlemen. We love Adam Richardson. Adam Richardson, we love you. Thank you very much. Thank you very, very much. Adam's going to talk from the heart about his experiences, what he's seen, what he's witnessed, what his thoughts are. Please listen very attentively. He's a remarkably proficient and capable man. We say HMRC, shame on you. HMRC!
Shame on you!
HMRC!
Shame on you!
Ladies and gentlemen, Adam Richardson, thank you.
Thank you very much, Andy. That's not the first time I've walked into the room full of chanting, shame on you. I think what Andy has just said about me is incredibly gracious, because I think that everybody here is the hero. You are the people that motivate me to come and do this job for nothing, and I've assured many of you that I will continue to do this for free until justice is sought and found. You're all too kind. You're an inspiration to me, every single one of you. I obviously wouldn't be here if it weren't for you, but anything I can do to help you, I will. So don't hesitate. Some of you I met today, some of you I know before. But some of the things I can tell you have taken place in this building, because I've been in meetings where they've been talked about. Promises were made. Assurances were given that brown envelopes would end up on people's doorsteps on salient dates. Christmas Eve, people wouldn't be bankrupted every year for the rest of their life, which for the record is entirely unlawful. But what is happening, as I discussed earlier at the press conference, is they're saying, well, if you can't pay your absurd tax bill, and we know you don't owe, because someone stole all your money, someone that the government said was proficient and regulated and you could trust, because they said that and you gave them their money and they ran off with it and they hit you with a big tax bill, they said, well, you got one option, and that's bankruptcy or paying us an absurd tax bill for money that you don't have. There is no fairness in that, and they know it. I know they know it. And if they do make you bankrupt, they won't make a penny out of it. All they will do is just hurt you more and more. And it is exactly right what was said at the last stop, that they are trying to divide and conquer and make you feel isolated. You're not alone.
Thank you.
There are other lawyers, some of whom are not here today. Vanessa Chalice, who brought me into this, Simon Myerson, Casey, of course, Ben Rees, and I hope more will join on, because this cause is, as soon as people hear about it, if anyone has any sort of sense of justice within them, why wouldn't they help you? This is the most unjust thing that I have had come across my desk in 15 years. And quite genuinely, we've been into rooms there, they've told us one thing, they've lied about it and done another. They know full well that if they squeeze you tightly enough, they'll get a result. And that's the result. And that is unconscionable by a government that has by charter an obligation to look after its citizens and collect tax, but it can't collect tax from people that doesn't have the money. But what it does have is the powers of the police. It has the powers to pursue the people that took the money in the first instance. Why are they not using those powers? Instead, they think it's easy to take the low-hanging fruit, the likes of you and me, and squeeze us as hard as they can, and that's where it ends up. So let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not the hero, you're the heroes. And thank you so much for letting me assist you in this, and for being so strong, and we will get a result. Because what's happening is wrong, and it needs changing, and we need to be loud about it. So if I could please get an HMRC, shame on you. HMRC,
Shame on you.
thank you all very much.
To make some important changes. Can I please invite you to put your hands together to welcome to the microphone Margaret Snowden over you. Thank you, Margaret.
Right, so for the last 10 years, I've freely given a lot of my time to fight against pension scams of various types. And I started doing this because I could see that scammers, many of them who were regulated advisors and some pretending to be regulated, were able to get the hooks into ordinary people that they snared. On the contrary, the scammers got away with a fortune. However, I began to see the horrible damage done to the lives of those who'd already been scammed out of their savings. They and their families faced financial ruin as well as mental anguish after falling for a scam. They got very little help and very little sympathy. In fact, they tended to be told it was their own fault that they trusted a scammer. And by the way, research has shown that even today, 50% of us would fall for a scam. So it's wrong on so many levels to blame a victim who was targeted more than 10 years ago. What I discovered was the HMRC and the government also blamed the victims. But worse than that, they assumed that all victims were guilty. Therefore, on top of losing most of their savings, HMRC has pursued them for tax charges for over a decade and has pursued them in an unnecessarily aggressive way. Now, to be fair to HMRC, their job is to collect tax that's due, and they say they've got no choice. But it's never reasonable to bully and frighten people and treat them like criminals without any evidence. It's a case of when you've got a hammer, everything looks like a nail. For the past 5 years, I've been asking Parliament to change the law to fit the new world where fraudsters prey on innocent people and then walk away without consequences, leaving ordinary people like nurses, machinists and firefighters to face the music alone. The law needs to change to give HMRC the power to disapply tax charges in cases where losses were due to dishonesty by a third party. I've written to Prime Ministers, to Chancellors, to Treasury Secretaries, but those who bother to reply just trot out the same old message. Our hands are tied. The people did something they shouldn't have, and we need to discuss others from doing the same. More recently, I've discovered this isn't an issue linked to pension scams and pension savers, but it's much broader. I was shocked to learn that the same impact and systemic injustice is being experienced by many different victims in all kinds of financial schemes. Happening in one sector is a problem, happening in several means something is fundamentally broken. And that's why I'm marching today for justice for victims of financial misconduct across the UK, for people who've been let down by the system, people let down by police who don't investigate the scammers, let down by politicians who can't see that the world has become a dangerous place for savers, and for all victims of financial crime let down by unacceptable treatment by HMRC. Enough is enough. We are concerned about suicides, bankruptcies, hardships, severe welfare issues among taxpayers who were duped into entering schemes. Those issues are directly caused by HMRC's sole focus on recovery of tax from the taxpayer rather than from the promoters, fraudsters and enablers of these schemes. HMR chooses not to use discretion when dealing with victims of financial crime and thereby makes a bad situation much, much worse. And today we were planning to launch a national petition to demand change. Unfortunately, 5 minutes after it was launched last night, it was actually taken down, waiting for us to produce evidence that what we are saying is in fact true. So we continue the fight. I feel picked on having done such a lot of it, but there we are. This is not the end of the story, and we are planning a campaign to look at a proper inquiry, a statutory inquiry, and that will uncover all of this formally, and that's what we need to do. Thank you very much.